Come on! I work for the system!
Welcome back. This is an album I've been looking forward to talking about for quite some time. I put out a poll a couple of months ago in which I said that I've been avoiding repeating artists for album reviews. If I was to repeat an artist, which would you prefer? An overwhelming majority said System of a Down. So here we are. A little bit surprised to see Linkin Park so low, honestly. That did genuinely surprise me. But anyway, here we are. System of a Down by System of a Down. I have a lot to say about all of their albums. I don't think they have a bad album. I think they have literally only one bad song in their entire discography, including B-sides. So it was a bit tricky, but I feel like this album is so fun and funny. And extreme that I had to do it. This album is so much fun, and I think I'd like to talk about it. So as usual, I'll give a brief overview. I'm going to streamline the Wikipedia bit because you know Wikipedia exists. You can look up this stuff yourself. I don't need to read it to you. But the basic rundown is that the album System of a Down was released June 30th, 1998. 1998. That's wild. It's 40 minutes and 40 seconds long, and was produced by the legendary Rick Rubin, who, if you don't know, what the hell is wrong with you? 2 singles only, which is a bit of a surprise, to be honest. This album kind of went unnoticed to start with, and then once Toxicity came out, I feel like a lot of people went back to the self-titled and were like, whoa, this is incredible. The album cover with the hand is actually taken from a 1928 anti-fascist poster, which I never knew. And the professional reviews overall were pretty favourable. I'd say the lowest one in this small list is 7.5 out of 10, which is pretty bloody good. And of course it went 2 times platinum in the US. The band System of a Down, if you don't know what the hell are you doing watching this video, is Serge Tankian on vocals, Darren Malakian on guitars and backing vocals, Shavo Odajan on bass, and John Dolmayan on drums. So that's it. No more intro. Without further ado, let's get into the review. Sweet pea. To this day, I don't think I've ever heard an album that starts like this album does, from the first second. It sounds like the intro to a Ren and Stimpy cartoon or something. If you'd never heard System of a Down before, which a lot of people wouldn't have when this album came out, obviously being the first one, you have no idea what you're expecting in the first 10 seconds. And then when it slams in, I can only imagine that it separated the listeners immediately. Like, they were either immediately on board or immediately not on board. As usual, when I do these reviews, I tend not to listen to the album for a little while before doing the review. It's not like I listened to this yesterday and it's fresh in my mind or anything. It's tattooed into my mind, this album, but I haven't listened to it for a few months, which is a long time for any System of a Down album for me. But I remember the last time I listened to it, probably in the gym, I was like, this still sounds incredibly fresh. You can tell it's from the late 90s, early 2000s era because of the transition from analog to digital that was happening around that time. That much you can tell, but and you can probably only tell that if you're a real music nerd like me. When Serge's vocals come in around 20 seconds, if you didn't already have your mind made up after the contrasting first 10 seconds and up until here, when his vocals come in, I think if you're not into it, you're going to jump off this boat right now. When I first discovered System of a Down, it really wasn't doing anything for me, and then fairly quickly over time, it worked for me. It grew on me very, very much so, to the point where now System is one of my favorite bands ever. Listening to this now, I can sort of see where that opinion came from, because it's so weird, right? Especially in '98. I would have heard this around the time Toxicity came out, so 2001. No band had ever sounded like this before. No band has sounded like this since then. It's such a unique experience, System of a Down, and I love them. So, a lot of people will argue that System of a Down is not nu metal, right? Which I can see both sides of it. But when the dum 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 dum, and then the very, very close to the mic, closed mouth vocal scream from Surge comes in. That's pretty nu metal. I don't think anyone could deny that, but that was kind of the trend at the time. There's a lot of System of a Down that I don't think does fit into nu metal at all. I think it was alternative metal that just happened to come out at the same time as the rise of nu metal, you know? I think they are and aren't nu metal at the same time, but this moment, 1 minute, like 1 minute, I've already had so much to say and we're only 1 minute into this bloody album already. That moment is very nu metal, undeniably. Like the song starts off super fast and heavy and intense, and then there's a large chunk of the song that is actually halftime and relatively slow tempo, not mellow by any means, obviously, but slowed down substantially. Lie naked on the floor. And then at the point where he goes, "'Cause everyone needs a mother," all the slowed downness goes away and we're back into that initial beat that we had right at the beginning of the song. Brilliant songwriting. If you can handle this song, then you can handle System of a Down. I think that's fair to say for literally every other song they made after this. No. John Dolmayan immediately proving that he's an incredibly good drummer, and I think one of the unsung heroes of nu metal, alternative metal, like in general. I think he gets overlooked quite a lot compared to Joey Jordison, for example. I think he's exceptional, and he does things that only John Dolmayan does. I think that could be said about every single member of System of a Down in some way, actually. Which is, I think, the key to their success, because again, no other band sounds like System, and no other band has a drummer like John Dolmayan. It just doesn't exist. This was what I found strange about System initially, was when Surge's vocals come in, he's kind of doing this sort of Middle Eastern sounding vocal style and tone and notation, which I'd never heard in rock or metal or anything like that before this, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people. And it really didn't work for me at first. It just confused me and kind of bothered me. You know, I was very, very much a pig-headed teenager when this came out, and if it didn't sound like Korn or Slipknot or Limp Bizkit, then I was basically not interested. And this didn't. There's bits of it that were similar, but overall it's so alien to me and to everything that I knew at the time. Listening to it now, I really, really see where my ignorant little mind was back then. But it's because of its weirdness and its uniqueness that they are now, in my 30s, still one of my favourite bands of all time, and I suspect they always will be. I love the it's almost like Nirvana-ish. Like rough and ready Nirvana, grungy production style. Like there's no polish, it's very ugly. In its ugliness, it is still well produced, obviously because it's Rick Rubin. I love the unfiltered, non-overly compressed sound of this era of music in general, but this album specifically. I mean, I think all of their albums never really suffered from overproduction. And having said all that, the moment at just before 2 minutes, where it goes into this kind of atmospheric bridgey section, that is, I think, an indication of where a lot of their music later on will go. I feel like in their later albums, that bridgy, atmospheric stuff is kind of spread out more throughout the songs, whereas here it's like a contrast pretty much every time. To my memory, again, I haven't listened to this in a while, but I have listened to this many times. But in my mind, it's like we're 100% on and in attack mode, and then we stop, and then we go into the melodic bit, and then we go back into the attack thing. So like on off. I mean, that's like the perfect bridge. It's like it flattens out, and then gradually goes up and up and up back into the heavy bit, which only lasts for like the last 15 seconds of the song. And this is something that System of a Down do quite a lot. It's something I noticed in that they just have like the last 10 seconds of the song becomes the heaviest bit for some reason. Sugar. Possibly one of their most iconic songs. Even in the first literally 2 seconds, you already know what song this is, and as I have previously mentioned, if you can already tell what song you're listening to within the first 3 seconds of the song, you've smashed songwriting. That dum-bum-bum-ba-dum. That's all you need as a System of a Down fan. If you've got all of their songs on shuffle, all you need to hear is that, and you know that it's Sugar. Brilliant. I remember back in the day, way back in the day, probably 2001, as I said, just after the release of Toxicity, hearing Sugar and finding it quite irritating, like genuinely irritating, when Darren goes, Sugar! Sugar! And then it goes into the dun, 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 dun. That whole thing just annoyed me. I didn't get it. It didn't make any sense to me. Like, what the hell am I listening to? Irritating, weird for the sake of being weird music, but these days I very much appreciate that kind of music. Yeah, different time, I was a different person then. Completely different person. I was such an idiot child. I'll give myself some credit back in the day. This is weird. There's no denying this is very strange music. Regardless of context, this music is quite strange. Sugar particularly, like it goes from one thing to another. Again, I'm talking about this contrast. This album is full of black and white situations. We're going from the incredibly heavy chorus into the sort of polka, upbeat, almost ska band beat. It's very weird. A minute and 44 seconds in, going into the like a jazz swing beat kind of thing. What? How can you include all of these things coherently and make it make sense? And Serge's range in this album, and throughout pretty much all of their career, I know his interest and his passion waned towards the end of their career, and you can't really help that. But you could tell with this album he was giving it 110%. He was doing everything his vocal cords could possibly do, which is a lot. I feel like with Toxicity and then Still This Album, which is sort of the same thing, he did expand on his vocal delivery abilities. But in this album, and particularly Sugar, he's doing so many different things.
No lights! No music! Just
At the age that he is now, well, he's got to be in his mid-50s now, I don't think he could do. I don't think he could pull off these things anymore. So this is kind of a time capsule of Serj Tankian, at least. I feel like the instrumentation could be reproduced these days, but Serj can't do these vocals anymore at all, even if he really wanted to, which is a shame, but that's just what happens when you get old, right? These vocals are utterly ridiculous in every sense, and I love them. Again, the heaviest part of the song being like the last 5 seconds as it ramps up. And then just ends. That's it. That's the end of your song. Goodbye. On to the next song. Suggestions.
Watching from a post up high, from where you see the ships that fall.
So the first mellow-ish song, certainly the most down-tempo song, and this one I for sure would not have enjoyed that much back in the day. Because while I found System of a Down's music weird, like at least it was heavy. If it's heavy, then that gets, you know, a 5 out of 10 at least, even if I don't like it. The Suggestions was sort of mellow and didn't really grip me at the time. After Sweet Pea, No and Sugar. And there seemed to be a trend at the time where you do a bunch of heavy songs and then you do one that's just not that heavy at all, which kind of kills the momentum. I don't know why that happened. If I was structuring an album like this, I'd leave the first mellow song till like halfway through the album, not track 4. Weird choice. But it's sort of, again, with the contrast thing I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of halftime in this album. The verses are very much with Serge doing sort of mellow vocals. And then when the, I guess, chorus comes in, it goes to half tempo and he's screaming his head off. Again, complete contrast. Like each section is the opposite to what the other one's doing. And then we get to 1 minute 38, and then it comes in with the huge, heavy this. I'm sort of conflicted on the song, I'll be honest. It's my least favourite so far. I love the build-up to this section, because it's so heavy, it's like Black Sabbath kind of heavy. But there's a part of me that is like, why couldn't you have just been doing this the whole time for the whole song? Because I'm a dumb meathead, and I like heavy music. The point at 1 minute 59 where he does the ridiculous little girl, stupid high-pitched voice thing. It never doesn't make me laugh. I just when he's doing that section of the song, again, considering he's done so many different things on this album so far, when he's doing that, it's like in a theatrical performance, he's gone backstage to get changed, to put on a little pink schoolgirl dress and like put his hair into pigtails because he had long hair at this time, and he comes out and then does that. That's the image I have in my head every time he does that. And this is exactly what I was talking about before, where these days in 2025, there's no possible way in hell that Serj Tankian can do those vocals anymore. I don't think. Spiders.
Your lives are open wide. The feature gives them some.
What I was just saying about Suggestions being a bit of a momentum killer, we then get to Spiders immediately after, which is even more confusing. This was one of the 2 singles, and I know for a fact that this song I really did not appreciate back in the day, at all. I will say, to this day, it's not one of my favourite System of a Down songs, but I can appreciate it, whereas back in the day I really didn't. It's going to sound pretentious as hell, but it's a bit of a pretentious song. It's a great composition, structurally, and the build-up and everything, and all the little different sections. There's a lot of attention to detail in this song, but it lacks any of the cartoonish silliness that we've grown accustomed to very, very quickly on this album. I like it when they're as silly as possible, for the most part. I do like their more serious songs, but Spiders, I can appreciate it now for what it is. Back in the day, I really didn't. I'm over-analyzing this because obviously I'm making a YouTube video and chatting to you and thinking about this album very, very analytically. I really would not have put Suggestions and Spiders, A, so early in the album, and B, right next to each other. I would have spread them out a bit more, put them towards the end. And as I'm looking at the names of the songs towards the end, they're pretty wild. I would have arranged the track list in quite a different way, I think. DDevil. The shortest song on the album, 1 minute 43 seconds. It serves early System of a Down songs well to be so short, because they can cram in a bunch of crazy nonsense without getting repetitive. It's sort of like hardcore punk in that sense, where it's just in, out as quickly as possible. And I really like it when System of a Down does that. It's in and out very, very quick, and I mean, it starts immediately and you're like, okay, I know something heavy is coming. Serge's delivery of the then themselves. Like, I can't even do that. My voice is too low. But I love his lack of giving a fuck about what's acceptable or normal or cool or anything. He didn't have to do any of this. He could have just sung it in a totally normal, like, let's try to be popular, let's try to fit into the status quo or whatever. He could have done that, but he did the complete opposite at almost every given opportunity. If you know this album well, you know why I'm laughing now. The Devil is so lovely. That bit, where he's doing the little girl voice with the pigtails thing, for no reason. And then he makes himself laugh in the recording, and they just left it in. I love that they left that in to this mass-produced album for millions and millions of people to hear. They didn't think, oh, that's a bit unprofessional. Let's take. You're not supposed to laugh at your own ridiculousness on an album. He did, and they left it in. I love that. It adds so much character and charm to this already very characterful and charming album. It's perfect. I think actually overall, if that little section of Serge laughing wasn't on this album, I wouldn't like it as much. I'm dead serious. That little detail is so important to me because it illustrates the quirky and goofy nature of this band, at least at this time. DDevil may be one of my favourite songs on this album. I don't really have a favourite. I don't think. There's no like one single song that stands out. Or maybe there is. We might get to that later. But DDevil is one that I sort of forget about. And maybe because it comes in and out so quickly. If I'm listening to this album in the gym, which I have done many times, because it comes and goes so quickly, it's because I'm in the zone. It's over so fast that I sort of forget about it. But now the laughing and the silly little pigtail girl thing, it's brilliant. Soil. We're about halfway through the album now, and this is kind of the first time we've heard a sort of drum and bass beat, like a dun dun da 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 dun dun da. Haven't really done that so far on this album, but I like it. This is what I'm talking about with John Dolmayan being an exceptionally unique drummer. His drum kit setup, slightly nerdy, I know, but his drum kit setup doesn't sound like anyone else. I've never heard another drum kit combined with the drummer sound like John Dolmayan, and in this song he's really illustrating that. Also a very, very weird time signature. I'm pretty good at identifying time signatures in general, but I've never been able to think what this time signature is. If you know, if you are slightly more of a nerd than I am, please let me know down below, because I've no idea what this is. It's really strange, and it's kind of jarring, but in a good way. The point at like 2 minutes 20. The guitar sound, it reminds me of like, I don't know if the Eagles is a good comparison, but sort of 80s dad rock. We've not heard anything like this in the album so far. If you just heard this section of the song, if you walked in a room and someone was listening to this album and you just heard this section, you'd be like, oh, sounds like any random band from the 70s, 80s, and without the rest of the album encompassing this sound. You wouldn't be blamed for thinking it was just some normal band, but you'd be very wrong because it's System of a Down. I think this is kind of the first bit where we've ever had a proper guitar solo from Darren. And I'm not much of a guitar solo guy, neither is he, which is another reason why I love System of a Down, because there's no wanky guitar solo stuff, generally speaking. But when it is there, it's sort of a, oh, yeah, okay, I remember what a guitar solo is. And I like Darren's use of guitar solos in their entire discography, and in this song as well, because we've not really heard this so far. This is what I meant about it being so weird to me, because like, I know what a guitar solo sounds like. It sounds like Slayer, or Iron Maiden, or Judas Priest, or you name any band from the 80s. That's what it sounds like. But then when you take that technique, and then you use Middle Eastern notation, that's so weird, man, and it shouldn't work, but it does. And again, everything cuts out, and there's Serge screaming into the mic as loud as he can in the last 13 seconds of the song.
Why the fuck did you take him away from us, you motherfucker?
Basically, the heaviest part of the song being the last few seconds of the song is ridiculous songwriting. War. I feel like this may be the most toxicity-ish song on this album. And I haven't mentioned it up until this point, but if you're new to the channel, hi. Something you won't know about me, but if you are already subscribed, then you will know, is that I'm a bit of a mosh pit freak. This album is one of the best mosh pit albums. You know, if they were to just play a set of all of these songs in order, what a beautiful mosh pit mess that would become. It would be wonderful. I have seen System of a Down live. It was a long time ago. It was 2005, so right at the end when they were just ending their career. And it was at a big festival. I think it was on the second day, and my memory is hazy. My point is that I think that this album is one of the best mosh pit albums, and War being a good example of that. Yeah, the middle section, the sort of bridge, breakdown, whatever part, there are a few keyboard, like, string things going on, which for the most part hasn't really happened on the album, but that does happen a lot on Toxicity, which I think is why this song makes me think of Toxicity. This is a short song, it's 2 minutes 40, and I feel like that bridge section does go on for a little too long. That's, like, literally the first bit of criticism of this whole album, genuinely. As an introduction to System of a Down, to someone who's never heard them before, War would be a very good song to show someone, like, if you like this, then you'll probably like all of System. If you don't like it, then you probably won't like any of it. Mind. So about a minute and a half of not very much. In my opinion, that doesn't need to be there, and I've just realised this song is 6 minutes long. You could quite happily chop off the first minute and a half of this song, that doesn't need to be there at all. The production of this album, again, I've praised it already, but the combination of the tuning and the effects on Darren's guitar and Chavo's bass, particularly in this song, are so well crafted, it's so well put together. And again, we can thank Rick Rubin for that. I will say, the song is too long. There's a lot going on in it as well. It's so schizophrenic, this song. Almost twice the length of any other song. But I'm only realising this now because I have the track listing in front of me with all the song lengths. Again, in the gym or whatever, I've never thought, oh, I'm going to skip this one because it's too long. I've never once thought that in 20 plus years. Obviously works in the context of the album, if I've never realised how long this song is. Suggestions and spiders, if I'm in the gym, I may skip. But I don't feel like I've ever skipped Mind. This is why I love doing album reviews, because it opens my eyes to particularly albums I've listened to for 20 plus years in a way that I've never really thought of before. Anyway, I'm going to move on from Mind. Peep Hole.
When your stars are baked and your rivers fly, do you ever believe? Do you believe?
I love the beginning of Peep Hole. It's so weird, again, like all of this album, but we've not really heard anything that sounds like a traveling gypsy circus. It fits, again, this is another example of it being so weird, but it all fitting together so perfectly. How did they manage this? Once again, the contrast thing, the bit where he's going, don't you ever get lost in the sky? It's so completely contrasting, it's so explosive and aggressive versus the bum 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 bit before.
When your castle breaks and your feet are dry.
It's such a huge contrast, and it shouldn't work on paper, but it absolutely does, and it doesn't make any sense why it does. Really good progression in the song. In fact, I think the last third of the song is probably my favourite bit, but it's because of everything that's come before. Darren starts going into weird, like, noodly. It's playing on what's come before, but it's my favourite part of the song. CUBErt.
day fight daylight. Day face street lights. Popcorn everywhere. Cliche people organ.
Okay, CUBErt was one of the songs back in the day that, while I was in my I'm not sure about System of a Down phase, CUBErt was one of the ones that made me go, maybe I do like System of a Down. Because it starts off very simple, with a very, very shrill, obnoxious guitar, followed by... I'm like, okay, this is interesting. It's not overwhelming, and it's not too weird. But then Surge comes in with this ridiculous vocal delivery. So this song was an important part of my System of a Down appreciation journey, let's say. What is this? Why did anyone back in... I'm not complaining, I love this band. I'm sure I've made that very clear at this point. But who thought in 1998 that this was a good idea? I think it was the chorus that lasts all of, I don't know, 10 seconds or something. It's a very short song. This is not as weird as a lot of the other stuff that they've done. So the very, very short chorus is like teasing me, and I like it. One of the more simple songs on the album, I think. There's nothing that weird about CUBErt. It's like this band is obviously very weird, but this song isn't very weird, relatively speaking. So yeah, it was an important song for me. Darts.
May I please remain in this space for darts? Arrive and then the gods indeed. Arrive and then the gods indeed. Arrive.
I do like how Darts starts immediately. Like there's no intro, no nothing. It's just straight in, slamming you in the face, which I always appreciate. I don't need a long-winded intro, especially on a System of a Down album. In my experience, hearing this album for the first time, up until this point, vocal delivery that I'd never heard before from any other human being.
Please remain in this space for darts.
Again, my mind boggles as to how they thought this was a good idea, essentially. Like, this shouldn't work in any way whatsoever. This is so strange. The fact of the matter is, this album didn't do very well until Toxicity came out, and then people went back to this afterwards, which I sort of get. I would have felt exactly the same way at the time. These days, if this was brand new and I heard this now, I'd be like, this is so incredibly weird. I've never heard anything like this before. I want to hear more. But that's me now. Me then was very different. Actually, Darts, what I was saying about War being a good example of a song to show someone if they have no idea about System of a Down and you want to give them a general overview of what they sound like, I think Darts is a good example as well. Because it's not ridiculous. Okay, it is slightly ridiculous, but it's not Pigtail Girl ridiculous, right? And it's heavy, but it's not overly gutturally heavy. But I was saying what I've been saying throughout this entire album about the contrast of the clicking and then the just screaming immediately out of nowhere. I love it. But it's undeniably comical. That's the thing. It is heavy, it is weird, it is quirky, but it is also very funny at the same time. When Surge includes the recording of him going like that, like he can't believe how ridiculous he's being on the album, that tells you that there's an element of humor in this album. If they had gone in with the attitude recording this album of we're going to be super dead serious and metal, I think it would have sucked, honestly. I think it would have lost a lot of charm. I wouldn't say that the performances are great, but they're nothing technically, musically genius. It's the overall package. It's the heaviness and the rawness and the humor that I think makes this. And if the humor was missing, that's like a third of this album that would be gone. what I was just saying about the humor in it. It's not just the it's not just Serge's ridiculous vocal delivery. It's the structuring of the songs. It's the contrast. What I was saying about this whole album is it's going from one extreme to the other on a dime. Like, it's ridiculous and it's funny and it's absurdist almost, but also heavy and also fun. It's so multifaceted, this album. I'm getting really excited talking about this. P.L.U.C.K, or Pluck. Holy trousers. Talk about going out on a bang. When the song actually hits, it's just screaming. Just elongated screaming from Serge and Darren, like on top of each other. Pluck, back in the day, was my favourite song on this album. I think it still is. But what I was saying before about me not being sure if I have one, and then as I looked at the track listing, I'm like, oh no. Yeah, this was the one that I was referring to. I think Pluck is so much fun, and actually is a bit of a disservice to the song, including it as the last one on the album. Put this in the place of Suggestions. Also in the breakdown, like 1 minute 50, at this point it does sound a lot like something off Toxicity. I think this is the first point on the album where Darren and Serge is harmonizing properly. So I think that's another reason why this reminds me of Toxicity, because there was a lot of harmonizing on that and everything going forward. Whereas generally on this album, there hasn't been any harmonizing. It's been just, for the most part, Serge just acting like a clown for the most part, and Darren genuinely doing just backing vocals here and there. But here, we actually have some harmonizing. It's really nice. But again, we go from the really nice harmonizing to Serge like breaking the microphone because he's screaming so loud into it. What a ridiculous album. I'm assuming it's not how they wrote this album. The first song you write is not typically track one, and the last one you write isn't typically the last one on the album. You write a bunch of songs and then you decide on the order of them, right? Because of the way they're harmonizing, unlike on the rest of the album, it's almost like they realized with this album, like, okay, this works, let's just continue doing this. Because for the most part in the rest of their discography, that is exactly what they do. Their voices harmonized so beautifully together. It then became System of a Down's thing. I think with this album, it was like this complete, like, running around like a headless chicken music, to then becoming this very unique blend of these two people's voices, which I think is a very, very good thing. It's a nice evolution. A lot of people weren't too keen on it back in the day, but I love it. So, System of a Down by System of a Down, I think, is a phenomenal album. There's a couple of things I would change, largely in the track listing. That's basically it. I wouldn't really change anything else on this album. I'd move Suggestions and Spiders to a bit later in the album. Aside from that, I wouldn't change a damn thing, and that makes it basically perfect. And considering the minimal effect this album had on me back in the day compared to now, how much it's grown in my appreciation over the years. Is this my favourite System of a Down album? I don't know. For me, they're all S tier. You ask me on Monday, it's this album. You ask me on Thursday, it's Mesmerized. Like, I can't choose. But I will say, this album, for me, is 10 out of 10. Unquestionably. All of their albums are, basically, for me. They're all 10 out of 10. I can't decide which 10 is a more significant 10. This album's amazing. There's nothing I would change. Has it aged well? Yeah, it really has. In every way. In fact, I'd say it's aged better than a lot of albums I could think of that came out around 1998. And it's also relevant in terms of themes and lyrics. Very relevant, actually. There's really no criticism I can throw at this album at all. It's brilliant. It's perfect. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll be very curious to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you've made it this far in the video, you're a trooper. Thank you for sticking around for this long. If you're new to the channel, then welcome. And if you're already subscribed, then thank you very much for being here. You know I appreciate your company. But I've still not thought of how to end videos yet. So, I'm just gonna say, go away.